There is almost nothing worse in the world than going to a race and sucking at it. I'm going to share my takeaways of how to not suck at Javelina 100. What's up guys, it's Alexander Tucker. This is my channel where we talk about all things ultra running and then get out in the world and explore beautiful places through adventure travel, hoping to share some of my experience and years of training in ways that hopefully inspire or motivate you on your journey too. And in this video we are talking about Javelina 100, one of the best and most challenging ultra marathons in the world, and specifically how to not suck while running it. There is almost nothing worse in the world than going to a race and sucking at it. In my 3 years running Javelina 100 and my preparation for running 2024, I'm going to share my takeaways of how to not suck at Javelina 100. And if this is something that you are looking for more of, go ahead and hit subscribe to follow along on the journeys of ultra running and travels around the world. It would be an honor to have you with me. Here's a little bit of backstory of Javelina 100. It started about 15 years ago and quickly became one of the premier ultra running destinations in the world, mostly because it is such a fun race. There's a reason they call it the Party in the Desert. It happens every year at the end of October in the desert just past Scottsdale in McDowell Reserve State Park. It's just a big plot of land with sand and cactus, and for one weekend every year a whole bunch of bums show up to run in it together. It's pretty much all it is, but every aid station is a lot of fun. They're all well volunteered and crewed, and if you are not familiar with Vipa, the race coordinator of this race and many other great races, then you will soon find out why they set themselves apart from everybody else. They just make such a great race experience. From start to finish, it's a wonderful experience for the runners, for the spectators, for the volunteers. And that's why I keep coming back to this race every year. Yes, because I feel like I always leave lost time. Also because it's just a fun place to go. It really is a giant party in the desert. But if you go, I want to make sure that you are equipped to run it right. So let's start with the obvious. This is a hot race. There's no buts about it. It's a desert race. I'm wearing my Turkey Trot for Bonnie t-shirt. This is in the fall, but I guarantee you it's not like your normal turkey trot. It is hot as hell. Hotter than most things that you've ever run before. During the day, it can routinely get up to 105 or 110 degrees. The hottest that I've ever run it was 103 degrees. And even if it doesn't get that hot, it still norms out in the high 90s. So be prepared for the heat. Give yourself as much heat training if you can. And if you can't, then the name of the game is just to keep it cool. Whatever you can do to stay cool on this long run, especially the sections where it is going to be the hottest and most exposed. This race from the headquarters all the way up to Jackass Junction and back is fully exposed. There's almost no tree cover with the exception of maybe a cactus here and there. Somewhere along the course you can get a little bit of shade in a cactus. That's pretty much it. Between the aid stations, the headquarters, and a periodic cactus, that's pretty much all you have for shade. So keeping it cool is your responsibility. The course is not going to do it for you. But when you're given it, take shade where you can. At the start and finish, the race headquarters, take a few moments to cool down. At all the aid stations, pause for a moment and let your core temperature drop just a little bit. That is a gift that you will be glad you gave yourself. And with your gear, find ways to extend shade throughout the course. With a large brim hat, something goofy, I don't know, maybe a cowboy hat, big old hat of some kind, whatever you can wear that stuffs ice up there and gives you extra shade. Arm sleeves. I cannot recommend cooling arm sleeves enough. Go out there and keep them damp. I do have my vest with my bottles for hydration, snacks, and other sorts of necessities, but I also go out for a handheld, not for drinking, but just for keeping cool, for spraying myself, just to have an extra douse of cooling down. I find that the stretches between the aid stations, that comes in handy. If you have an ice bandana or a buff, then you can wrap ice in it and keep it on your neck, feel extra cool. That will go a long way in extending your comfort from aid station to aid station. And speaking of ice or cool drinks, bring as much of it for yourself as you can. If you're flying in for the race, go to Walmart and get a cooler and stuff it full of ice and drinks. Wherever you're coming from, bring an extra cooler just for ice. I have been out on the race course, and God bless the coordinators, they try their hardest, but some years it is so hot that they run out of ice, and you don't want to be in the position where you're leaning on the coordinators for everything that you need. So that is cooling preparedness, but what can we do during the heat of the day with our racing? My suggestion is take it it easy as much as you feel comfortable while also still running a great race during the heat of the day. Between 9 a.m. and 4 or 5 p.m., you're going to be roasting in the sun. Come on, somebody in the comments, tell me how hot it is, right? There are moments where you literally can feel your skin sizzling. So, of course, when we're doing that, our body naturally is going to react in a way that is going to make it harder for us to race well. So just pull it back. Pull back your intensity, pull back your pace, keep your heart rate down. As you try and keep yourself cool, one of the ways that you can best gift that to your body is to not push it through the heat of the day. And then pick up your time outside of that. As soon as that sun starts setting, it starts cooling down and it becomes a really, really fast race. And you will be able to pick up all sorts of time. And at that point, it will quickly drop from about 100 degrees all the way down to sometimes even in the 40s at night. So you're going to want to be prepared for both here. Not just the heat, but also maybe a shell to throw on at night if you start getting a little cool. It's a weird race like that. You can get the spectrum of everything in between extreme hot down to the cool. And that is a good suggestion for your race crew or your volunteers or your spectators. Make sure they come at night with something to wear that's warm, a puffy or a jacket too. It'll get chilly for them while they're hanging around waiting for you. And my next suggestion, while in training and preparing for your race, focus on race preparation and strategy. Not just getting your time on your feet and your miles in. Also try and replicate your race strategy in your training. You want to go to race day as prepared as possible for this specific race. It is not a very challenging or technical course. This is a 100-mile race with 5 20-mile loops, and each loop is only about 1,500 miles of elevation gain. I live in an area where an hour run is going to be about 1,300 feet of elevation gain. That's how hilly it is for me. So I actually have to go out of my way to go find flatter places to train on trails. But it isn't just about training in a place that replicates the surface of the terrain. It's also to try and prepare how your body is going to react to the elements that day. And what do I mean by this? I mean specifically when and how you're going to fuel. When do you plan to down those bottles or eat that gel or take a couple of salt tabs? All of these things are going to help you in the heat of the day when your brain is feeling a little bit fuzzy. Other things to think about: blister mitigation. How are you going to stop those blisters from happening? I like using Injinjis, the little toe socks, which do help with blisters and keeping the sand out from between my toes. Any way that you can prepare yourself to be ready to swap out socks or shoes, you want to keep those blisters off your feet. You'll run better, you'll run faster, and you'll feel better throughout the day. And of course, when we're talking about heat and sweat and sand and dirt, you got to talk about lube. How to keep all your areas from getting extra chafy. I'm sorry to say it, it's just the reality of what we do. What we do creates chafe, especially when you're out there running in sandy places or salty and sweaty places, you're gonna chafe. So whatever the product is, whether it's Body Glide or Squirrel's Nut Butter or even just good old-fashioned Vaseline, use it whether you think you need to or not. I can't recommend that enough. From own personal experience, you're gonna thank yourself the next day, and you're gonna thank me for reminding you. With that, for many years of trial and error, focus on hydration and electrolytes, not just fueling. One of the things that happens out there in the desert is when you're working hard, your heart rate goes up and your body starts overheating. Well, when you put calories and food and carbs in and it sits in your stomach, all the body wants to do is expel it so that it can use that blood to cool down the rest of your body. In the hottest times of the day, I recommend just focusing on hydration and electrolyte intake rather than food. I myself always go out and make salt caps a big part of my race plan, mostly because I can't get enough salt in. I sweat a lot and have a high salt concentration in my sweat, so I use this just to keep up with my electrolytes. You might know yourself through and through and know exactly how your body responds to this, but if you don't, I do recommend dial back on this. Otherwise, you might get your body shutting down and trying to throw it all up just to stay cool. Sadly, I can speak from years of experience. The next are suggestions that I have about the headquarters, the race headquarters, Javelina Jundred, as they like to spell it. If you come early and are able to set up your headquarters station yourself, whether that's for you or your crew, your volunteers, your spectators, whatever it is, you have paid for a station to be there, which is great. But get friendly with your neighbors. You're going to be there all weekend. Now also, while you're doing it, try not to take up more property than you need. There are a lot of people who are coming to use this. Maybe even share a space if you have more than you need. Invite them to come in. The more the merrier at this race. I'm telling you, everybody here is going to be your new best friend. Also, if you are camping on site, you're going to be right in the thick of it, and it's going to be fun, but it's going to be loud. So plan to bring earbuds or noise canceling headphones, however you need to sleep to cancel out that noise, it does get loud at the headquarters. And like I said before, whether you are racing or crewing or volunteering, we all know about the heat in the day, but it does get cold at night, so bring a blanket or a puffy jacket, something that can keep you warm through the cool hours in the evening. Finally, as I've been alluding to all along, come ready for fun. This is a full-on party in the desert, and there are even parts of it that are not kid-friendly. Javelina goes full-on fun the whole time, which means that some aid stations, they're cracking beers and throwing them back, and it is a hell of a good time, but it might be something to prepare yourself for if that's not what you're used to. At 3 a.m. at Jackass Junction, it gets pretty wild. If you feel comfortable, get into the Halloween spirit, dress in a costume, wear face paint. I don't know, however you like getting festive, do it, because it makes the experience better for you and for everybody involved. This race not only gives finisher buckles and winning buckles, but it also gives all sorts of awards for fun categories. Things like oldest and youngest finisher, best costume, even the best ass award. Yes, I have been witness to that, and that's just something you'll have to see to believe. So those are all my suggestions. I hope that it gives you some leg up, some benefit on your race at Javelina Jundred. If you've run it before, I would love to hear your takeaways and the things that you learned. If you see me out there on the race course, give me a high five, maybe even run a couple miles together, and then take a shot of Fireball at Jackass Junction. Who knows? It gets pretty wild back there. Wishing you all the best. Happy trails, safe travels. Take care.